right, welcome to the Lever Movement Podcast. I am your host, Brad Miles, co-founder of Lever. And with me today, I have Eric from Slowtwitch. Eric, how's it going?
Good. How are you? So Brad, I do have a question for you. Do you go by Brad or Bradley? You introduce yourself as Brad, but on your email, it's Bradley.
I've tried to change my email and Google won't let me. So it just shows up as Bradley. I don't really, my mom calls me Bradley.
Okay.
My friends call me Brad. Either way.
So if it's coming from a source of endearment, then it's Bradley. If it's just a buddy, it's Brad.
Yep. Endearment or I'm in trouble.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Either way, it's
Typical
Bradley.
Mother stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I like it.
Hopefully I'm a little past getting in trouble by my mom, but you never know.
They're always your mom, man, no matter what. My mom still scolds me. What are you doing? Why haven't you called your dad? Yeah.
But Eric is just Eric. There's no
I'm very
name.
grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I can thank my mom for that.
There you go. So you don't know if you're in trouble or it's a sign of endearment. It's just Eric.
It's just Eric.
Just the pitch changes.
Definitely. Yeah.
There you go. Well, great. I mean, we can keep talking about our moms if we want. We could actually have the whole episode.
Our moms are wonderful ladies.
They are.
At least I know my mom is. Your mom sounds like a wonderful lady.
My mom is a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
Yes. I owe a lot to my mom. And I love her a lot. But jumping into it. So Eric, can you give us a little bit of an intro? Thank you. A little intro into who you are and where you've been at in this journey called life.
My name's Eric. I not Erica or any other, just Eric with a C, by the way. What do you want to know? I mean, let's see here. I was born and raised in Southern California, San Diego, actually. But I think I left there around like 6-8 months old. I'm not 100% sure when. I don't remember. I moved around a lot as a kid. My parents divorced when I was 2. They got remarried to, other people. I think that's the right way to say it. They got married again, but to other people when I was 5, about 6 months apart. And so I was really lucky to have really good homes for both situations. But I did move a lot. And I primarily grew up with my mom and my stepdad. And he was always an entrepreneur. And so we moved a ton. So I lived in Utah for a while, back to California, went to South Carolina. By the time I got married at the age of 38, I had lived in 40 homes or apartments. And so, I was lucky enough to learn a lot about different cultures in the United States because I've lived on the West Coast, the East Coast. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived in Colorado, and so I was very fortunate enough to do that. And I grew up in primarily in South Carolina, so I was a really chubby kid. Well, I was fat. I was 320 pounds. So I can say that. So I was really big in high school. I lost 120, 130. Let's do the math here. 160 pounds my junior year and senior year in high school. And that's when I kind of got introduced to endurance sports because I started to run. And so run, and then I stole my dad's Schwinn mountain bike at the time and started riding around the roads of South Carolina. And so I got kind of hooked on cycling then. And I used to think that like an hour-long bike ride was like a big accomplishment. In fact, I can remember the day when I planned this one route, and it was like 12 and a half miles around Pawleys Island. I went all the way up to Litchfield Plantation and then back down. And I actually I packed a power bar and I stopped halfway at sat down under like a shaded tree to like eat my power bar. I like got up and I like finished my ride. And so that's when I kind of got into like sports from an endurance perspective was in high school, and moved to Utah to go to school for just general ed. Just went to college out here and got introduced to the triathlon club and started my triathlon club experience there. And I've just kind of had random jobs and random life's experiences that have, for the last 20 years, involved the endurance sports community. So I've managed professional athletes. I've sold sponsorships for big event series. I've done a lot of video and photography work. And now I have the ability and privilege to be a community leader within Slowtwitch. That's what I call myself, is a community leader. So, yeah.
That's good. I like that position. And so I guess walk us through Slowtwitch. I mean, my guess is most people that are listening to the podcast know of
They probably do
fairly well. Yeah. But can you just kind of give us just the background of Slowtwitch, why it started, how long it's been around?
It's this crazy cool online forum community that started 23 years ago by the legend himself, Dan Anfield. And Dan is a guy that invented basically the triathlon bike. He invented the triathlon wetsuit. And he's just this really good, quirky dude. And he invested the majority of his life into endurance sports. And, he started a bunch of companies. He sold a bunch of companies. He got fired by some companies. And when he, kind of was sick of owning and operating, physical product built companies, he decided to start an online community called Slowtwitch. And he did. And it's this really cool community that people are able to gather. It's a new site, but on the back end of the new site, there's this really unique forum that has become very popular within the sport of triathlon as like what we're known for. And within the forum, it's just, hundreds of thousands of individuals that come, and some contribute by logging in and creating topics. Some topics are better topics than others. And then there's a lot of people that just visit the site from a ghost perspective, where they are there just consuming all of the information that's on the forum. There's 9 million forum posts. There's 9,000 articles. So it's just like this huge history of rich data online. That's a community. And that's the best way I can describe Slowtwitch.
Yeah. That's really good. And so how long have you been with Slowtwitch?
I've been associated with Slowtwitch for about 11 years now. And me and some other partners bought Slowtwitch from Dan. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary in just a couple of weeks, actually. And so it's been a while. But I didn't really get like super involved from a Slowtwitch from a back end perspective until probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Before that, I was just, using Slowtwitch for credentials to go shoot and do photography galleries for them. Mm-hmm. And so that was my extent of knowledge when it came to Slowtwitch, was creating cool pictures of professional athletes and doing, visual journalistic stories. And and it wasn't until about 4 years ago where I really started to dive into the back end of Slowtwitch and really understood the forum and what it did for the community and what it could do for the community. And but I would say the last 2 years, I feel like I have about 10 years of experience there, just the amount of time that I've spent. But I still don't have as much information as Dan has in the back of his head when it comes to the community itself.
Well, what was it about Slowtwitch, and maybe it was getting a little bit deeper into it, seeing the back end of it? Like, what was some of the light bulb? What was the light bulb moment of like, I want to run this company?
I think at the end of the day, I didn't feel like my time at Slowtwitch was done. So, kind of going back 3 or 4 years ago, right before COVID, Dan and I had started to conceptualize a different approach with Slowtwitch that he didn't have for a long time, and that was a media content approach when it came to the partners. And so, at the end of the day, Dan is very analytical. He's not very digital. He's very analytical. He's very hands-on. And he's just not a very visual, creative person. He's X and Y instead of, visual. And so, and I am not that analytical. I'm very visual. And so, he had always kind of lost the visual aspects of a pretty website and visual content and things like that. And I think that's always why he appreciated the stuff that I had done with him and for him in the past is I felt like I brought that from a storytelling perspective. And so, we started this company called Slowtwitch Media House, which is essentially a digital agency centered around, and the mission of that agency was to make sure that smaller companies were able to flourish inside the endurance space. And what I mean by that is giving smaller companies an opportunity to create content at an affordable rate. Because it would drive me nuts. It still drives me nuts to this day, where I see these large companies come into our space and within a year or two they leave and they never come back, which means that they had a bad experience. Whether that bad experience was, there was no return on investment, whether or not they spent too much money, whether they didn't get the message right, or whether or not their product just wasn't meant for this space and no one really gave them the heads up on that. And so, Dan, one of the things that I always appreciated with Dan was how honest he always is with everybody that he deals with. Like, his moral compass is so high, and I've always appreciated that of him. And so, when someone would come in and they would want to work with Slowtwitch or partner with Slowtwitch and they needed visual stuff, he didn't do that. And so he would never take their money to do that, or he would never suggest that they would go anywhere that he knew that did it well. And so what would happen is they would leave and they would never come back because they would get swallowed up by some other agency or something. And, that partnership or that money or whatever you want to call it would just get funneled somewhere else. And I could see it, I could watch it, and they would eventually, some of them were obviously successful in the sport, but most of them would just leave and they would never come back. And because I cared so much, and obviously I still do, I care so much about our space and the endurance space that we live in the community, that I want everyone to have success in it. Like, I feel like I've had success. I want athletes to have the success. I want companies to have the success, and I want race directors to have success. And because to me, it's where I find a lot of peace and joy is within our, which is odd because it's a very selfish space. But I really enjoy what we're able to do in this environment. And so, it got to the point where Dan and I were working closely together on this, but Dan also was at the point where he wanted to sell Slowtwitch and not have the burden of being a business owner. And so we started to have those conversations. And so, when the opportunity came, I really had to ask myself that same question: why are you doing this? Because it's a lot of work, and it was going to require a lot of personal sacrifice. Not only the things that I like to do, but the time that I no longer have to spend with my family, because I have to, focus on, the things that are important to a different community. And so when it really came down to it, I think that myself and the other partners that came in felt like there was a bigger opportunity for the community still that hadn't been fully achieved yet. And we felt like we had the energy and the vision to do that. And at the same time, keep a lot, if not all, of the things that were really important to Dan when he built the community that he had built. And I didn't feel like any other offers that he had, and neither did he, were really capable of doing that. He wasn't willing to sell to, people like Pocket Media or Outside, or because he just didn't feel like that was a good fit. And, there was other suitors that wanted to buy the website for a long time, and he just never thought it was a good fit. And so, he entrusted us, knowing who was coming on board to do what was right for the community as a whole, and try to move the ball forward with, leadership from that perspective. So that's a really long answer to your question, but yeah, it was complicated. It was a complicated step because, one of the reasons why I got into Slowtwitch Media House was, I'd worked a corporate job for a long time and I had no life. And so I had gotten married. I was inheriting two kids and a dog, and, a lot of changes. And so I kind of went back to photography to not work so much. And all of a sudden it was like, these are big decisions that affect everybody. And, was I willing to take on those roles, which required a lot of sacrifice to do it.
Yeah. A lot more responsibility that you stepped into, for sure. Well, that's good. Let's talk about a few of those, if you don't mind. I'd love to know, just kind of, obviously the last 2 years you've been in the trenches, but kind of coming from that, I love what you said, that you are more of the creative side of things. So I'm sure you've let your mind wander, and from a vision standpoint, a little bit of what is the possible. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what's come down the pipeline for Slowtwitch. And also just to make sure, we said it, it's a space for the endurance community, right? So that's anywhere from gravel, triathlon, cycling, running. And the articles are really good. First, before we go into advancements and where you're taking the company, could we talk through some of the popular articles that are on Slowtwitch? I know people love their bike counts, so maybe we can start there.
Yeah. We have one of the things that, and it makes a lot of sense, but we're the data-driven IT engineer geeks have always been drawn to Slowtwitch. And I think that they're drawn to Slowtwitch for a couple of reasons, but I think one of the main reasons why they've been drawn to Slowtwitch is it was for so long, it was such an analog looking website. It was like the Reddit, it was like, Craigslist before Craigslist went way south, so all of those forums, right, where it's just data and, ones and zeros, and they can get in there and they can talk to people and things like that. And so, anything that is involving bikes, our community just loves, and anything that involves, any sort of advantage of, because our user base in triathlon specifically, and, endurance athletes that represent triathlon are now moving to all of these different, genres of exercise and adventure, right? They're the reason why gravel has exploded, and they're the reason why trail running is becoming, super popular. And you've got these, other athletes outside of triathlon that kind of laid the groundwork for them. But when Ironman ultimately really pissed off everybody that was their core business 3 years ago, they were like, I got to get my endurance fix, and I don't want to sign up for another Ironman because, fuck that. And I'm going to go do a gravel race because I'm sick of getting hit by cars, but I want to get outside. So I'm going to go do that for a little bit. Or, I'm sick of running on roads. My knees hurt. I'm going to go do some trail running. And so, you've got these endurance athletes in their very particular, and in their time is very valuable to them. And so any sort of information that these people can figure out and gather that saves them time, energy, and money, they're all about it. And so when it comes to giving them, articles and things to talk about, that's really what made Slowtwitch very popular was, and that kind of goes back to like Dan's analog tinkering self was, how do I make bike fit more approachable? How do I make, these gears work? What's this cool new technology on this bike here? And where are arrow wheels going and all of those kind of things? And, what running shoes are we using and why are we using this? And what about this nutrition that's coming out? And, is it a slow burn? Is it a fast burn? And, all of those types of things that help endurance athletes become more effective and more efficient in their daily life, not only training, but particularly when they get to that big moment where they've invested all of this time and energy, that big moment for that race is the best possible outcome that it can be. And I think that, it's how these endurance athletes approach everything in their life. They approach that with business. They approach that with their family. Everything is goal oriented and they're working for something. And they want that final achievement to be worth all of the investment that they've had. And so, so I think, bike fit, is definitely the most popular thing within the forum and on the page. And then just, cool technology. I mean, we just had an article that was written by Jordan Rapp. It was the Garmin ecosystem. And it's probably one of our most read articles in the last 6 months. And because it just goes through it, it illustrates how all of these, devices and cloud-based services in this huge Garmin ecosystem interacts with each other and how that makes the end results better for the person that's using it. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm surprised to hear that the Garmin ecosystem article has more views than the lever movement review on the forum. But, we have 3,000 views on that lever movement review.
It's a good one, but you unfortunately you don't have like 100 devices. So you're getting there.
Yeah, no, the ecosystem it's a really good article for people that are in the ecosystem already and want to learn more about it for sure. Yeah. Another one that I like too, and you were in Nice, so which comes with a lot of cool things and a lot of articles that come from it. One of them, I feel like, which is one of the most popular ones, is just getting the bike count of all the ladies' bikes, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And just being able to see from a percentage standpoint, which brands have the highest percentage. And
it's interesting. It is. It's a tradition that's evolving. And some people like the fact that it's evolving and some people don't like the fact that it's evolving. But that was one of the things that was started by Dan back in the day, was the bike count. And it's an industry participated event. And what I mean by it's an industry participated is it was never designed. That was one of the things that Dan was always very particular about is, information should be gathered and shared with everybody that could benefit from it. And so, his curiosity was always to help partners and people in the industry make the best products that they possibly can and make sure that those products went to market and they were successful in the market. And so the idea of the bike count came, I was like 15, 20, I don't really know exactly when it is, but like I saw a report the other day from like 2019. So 2009. So like a really long time ago. And they just wanted to know what people were writing, and start to record that so that you could see trends in the marketplace down. Right. So it was that ripple effect of like, here's a product that went to the market. Of that product, how many top elites were adapting to it, and where does that trickle down later into the age group divisions, 3 or 4 years later. Does it trickle down at all? Was it adopted? Was it not adopted? And so, the bike count is this community event because we need a lot of volunteers. We've got 10 to 11 different categories that we're trying to measure, and the athletes are moving fast past you. And so, and this was the first year that we did it all on tablets instead of paper. Because the first time I was introduced to the bike count was like 2 years ago, and we all sat there with clipboards and paper, and we marked as things came by. And then at the end, it was like we had to tally all of this stuff, and I was like, and we tallied forever, and I was like, wow, this is. And so last year we tried at Kona. Half of us did just an electric form on a pad, and then the other half of them, all tallied on paper. And we left, and when we were done, like all the results were there, right? And so, last year, some of the people were like, no, we're doing paper, and paperworks. And this year they're like, we got tablets, right? I'm like, yeah, we got tablets. They're like, good. So,
just one of the advancements you're bringing to Slowtwitch.
Just days, one of the things. Yeah.
So many good things. Yeah. That's one.
But the hard part though, was getting permission from Ironman to do it, because in the past, Ironman's been Ironman, and, they see something cool. They're just like, oh, we've got to do that. That's our information, and blah, blah, blah. And so there was a couple of years where like the bike count didn't even really happen because Ironman was being Ironman. But, last year they were super great to work with on allowing us to get there and, record all the data. And then this year we had a great partnership with them where they really took the time to make sure that we had all the access that we needed. We had the internet connectivity that we needed.
Nice.
We had all the wristbands that we needed to get where we needed to go. They gave me access to the pro compound. They monitored me because some pro like 6 years ago, like claimed that somebody messed with their bike the night before. And so ever since, like you would think that the pro compound was like Fort Knox before Ironman events, which is just funny because all the pros go in like the morning of, and they're like tripping over everything and bumping stuff. And, but nobody else can go in there. So we captured all that data, and now we can dive into it. And, the challenging thing is the cool thing and the challenging is, for the first time ever, last year, all of a sudden we really had a legitimate like gender split when it came to bikes. So for the first time ever, it was like, oh, what do we do with this? Because you've got, over a decade of like history of data that you've collected and why you've collected it. And that never really changed. And that was one of the things that like, I think Dan ultimately recognized, 3 or 4 years ago, was like, he was kind of getting stuck in like the rut of like the same old thing over and over again. And there was no really evolution of like, where are we going with things? And so, last year it was like, oh, for the first time ever, it was like, we have a male race and a female race, which means we have a female bike count and a male bike count. And what's the difference there? What are women's specific bike features that they're looking for? What are men specific bike features that they're looking for? Women don't like power as much, or they don't feel power as important as men are. If you look at power meters and power sources, percentage wise, much lower than men. And so just little things like that you start to look at, and buying decisions. And so all of those cool, trendy things that we're starting to like capture and go after. So I still think it's going to take like a year for us to like get, we'll do Kona next in 2 weeks. And then next year we'll be back for the women's race in Kona. versus Nice. So I still think we need a couple of years before things really start to like settle into that, before we have some like specific data that we can like really showcase from like hey, we've got a couple of years of samples here. But we're getting there, and it's fun. And that's the stuff that Slowtwitch has been known for in the past that we kind of got away from. And those are the things really ultimately what we're really focused on doing is bringing back the things that Slowtwitch really was known for, and diving into the future of technology and figuring out how to enhance that reporting so that it can be unique again, like it was 10 years ago, before, you know, every professional athlete had their own Instagram channel and they were all journalists. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. All influencers, right? Nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, they did it to themselves. It's a good thing. It's also, you know, it's also really hard for them to keep up with. But it's forced really good change. It's definitely forced change with us on how we rethink how we bring news and insights to, you know, the masses. And it's really, you know, made us step up our game on bringing stuff that's unique. Because if we're late to the party, no one cares. They've heard about it from somewhere else. So we've got to be prompt, and we've got to have something unique to talk about. And still at the same time is, you know, we've been known for the gold standard of truth and integrity and honesty with the things that we talk about. And, you know, we've never gotten into the clickbait. We never really liked the drama of things. I hate the drama of things. Yeah. And so, you know, we miss a lot of stuff, but ultimately I think it's been, you know, a good thing for us to really take time to sit back over the last couple of years and be like, all right, where has Slowtwitch fallen short, and how do we get back to that, and how do we continue to grow the community that is coming to our site every single month? Because we're the second largest endurance website in the world. We have a huge user base, and you know, they need as much information as we can possibly give them. And so that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's our responsibility.
And what I will say is I do appreciate your focus on the news side of things versus the clickbait and the gossip. Some of that is left towards the forums, right? You're always going to find the gossip in the forums, so you can get it if you want. But what gets produced from Slowtwitch is just straight news, which is very unique in today's world.
Yeah, news, reviews,
right.
You know, opinions, particularly on community things. Like, and I think that's where you'll see a big change from us is, you know, when it comes to turning out content, I think one of the things that I've really tried to inspire the editorial team is, you know, we're not. Because we have some very talented, extremely talented editorial writers, like Ryan Heisler, who's our current editor in chief. Like, you know, I mean, he, you know, massive degree. He's got a law degree, has a journalistic degree. And so sometimes I have to remind him, I'm like, dude, this is triathlon. Like, just write something. Like, it doesn't need to be for the New York Times. Like, you need to write more. We need to write more. Like, we need to pump out some content here. That doesn't mean that we just need to regurgitate, you know, a social media post like some news, quote unquote, news sites do these days. But at the same time, we need more of it. And so we're pretty inspired to do that. And we're committed to where, you know, we were doing 20, maybe 25 articles a month. You'll start seeing 60 to 70 articles a month come out from us. And with that is bridging the gap between the front page and the forum. And so, you know, with this new website that we have that ability to integrate so much more seamlessly than we have in the past, where, you know, we can take those articles that have substance and that have direction for people to open up conversation and dialogue with. And we're going to be pumping those into the forum as hey, we want your guys' opinion on this, because that's the beauty of the forum is it's, and really at the end of the day, what makes Slowtwitch so unique is it's a communicative community. And so we push information to our audience and they talk back. For better or worse, they talk back, and we listen to them. And so, and we have that back and forth with that. And it's something that, at times I want to, close and throw it in the trash. But at the same time, it's something that we embrace, and we're going to continue to embrace, because there's a lot to be learned from, the hundreds of thousands of people that visit the site that have opinions and experience that they're willing to share. And so we want to continue to drive that conversation by creating more content and having more opinion-based articles and more reviews and things like that, so that we can present the things that we feel are important to the community and start to get their feedback on whether or not it is, or it needs to be changed from a directional standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And one of the other things that we wanted to touch base on is the other advancements that are coming down the pipeline. You're launching something in a couple of weeks that I was hoping you could share a bit more about with the.
In beta mode, but we will. Yeah.
Beta mode is it's still a release.
It's still there. Yeah. So one of the things that we have is, we started a team a couple of years ago, and it was just a little age group. I mean, teams are the big thing, right? And so I was like, well, why don't we have a team? Like, I have 6 or 7 buddies here that, want to get into the same outfit and run around like, team members.
Index all.
Yeah. And so, logoed up and so, and honestly, like, we all, like, if we want to give like homage to the team, the original team, it's Waddy. Like, Waddy was the first guy to come in and event the teams in the space. And so, but back to what, so we had this team, and then, the team started to grow. And then, like, last year we made like our first big push. Like, we were like, okay, so I'm really good friends with Shane Peed, and, he's the owner of Certified Piedmontese and Good Life Brands. And he had a team, and we had a team, and we were like, man, let's just work together, and we have a team. So it's the Slowtwitch Good Life Racing team, and applications are open, and so we kind of made this push, but we did it super last minute. And so, like, we didn't even open up applications until like November. And so we had like 160 people on the team, right? Which is, it was a really good first year. But my gosh, communicating with the team members is an absolute pain, because you have just enough people to where you can't really use your own email, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to talk to them about like your partners and things like that. So you've got to give them information on a regular basis. So you got to use like a MailChimp or something to do that with. And then some of the email addresses, get blocked. And so then you can't, so then you have to have like your own, email. So, and then it's like, okay, so then you need a place for people to like gather. So like Facebook private groups is like ultimately like the best solution, where like most people are on Facebook and stuff. But then you started to learn that like 30 to 40% of the people on the team aren't on Facebook anymore. And so you can't really communicate to them that way. And then, if you want to have a Zoom call, you got to have, like a paid Zoom subscription, because a free one only gets you 45 minutes. And so you got to go pay for that. And so at the end of the day, like, to communicate to these like 160 people that are on your team, you have like 5 different applications, and it takes you like 5 times as long to do it. And so with the new website, I went to our service provider, who is a, Federated Computers, great company. And the guy that owns it has been in the space for 10 or 15 years. And so he really understands the endurance mindset in the individual that's here. And I was like, we need to go after Facebook private groups. And they were like, why? And I'm like, because nobody's on Facebook. Like, there's not a significant enough people that are on Facebook, everyone's dealing with this problem. If we're dealing with this problem, everyone's dealing with this problem. And so I started to reach out to like, the guys at Zoot that run the biggest club out there. And they're like, yeah, man, like we use Facebook private message, but it's pain. Like, you get like 20, 30% that aren't even on Facebook. And so you can't really communicate with them. And so what we're doing is we're creating this new portal for teams on Slowtwitch and on the forum. And so the idea is that instead of having to go set up another Facebook private group, is you can come in and team members will be able to set up a group within the forum that's locked down and private specifically to them. And they can administrate from an admin perspective, who is on that team, who is not on that team, and be able to do all of your posting, community, engagement events and all of that stuff all within the forum. And so you can kind of move away from the space that is, I think, driving society mad with the way that it paints everyone's lives, and get over into a space that is less crowded and specific to your team and or club. And we want to open this up to not just triathlon clubs, but we want to open this up to running clubs and cycling clubs and anybody that needs a space where they can come in to a locked down environment, that they have trusted leaders that are in charge of their community that can monitor things. And we're really pumped about it. And we're going to start with our team. I think next week is when we'll have the first thing. So we're gonna drag all of our 150 people over to it, and we're gonna see how it works. And but yeah, the plan is that we're gonna launch this before all of the teams really get settled into having to communicate with their team members for 2025. So we're super pumped, because ultimately, obviously it's a huge driver for us, because we get more people onto the site, which means that the community can grow, which means that we have more people that can look for information that they need from the rich data that's in the forum. It means that new people will come in and contribute new things, and they can do it in an environment where they can kind of feel safe at first until they get comfortable enough where they venture off into the actual forum itself. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's good. So if somebody is interested in getting their team set up on this portal, is there like a wait list? Do they reach out to somebody, or just
go to the forum in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to have some information. So we'll have a pinned thing on top, and it'll start to give people an opportunity of where it's going to be at.
I'm sure you're going to announce on your social channels and everything.
We will. I'll write an article about it, and we'll have, how you start it and things like that. And we'll actually probably do some marketing around it, just so that, because we have a lot of people that come to our site, but we still have a lot of people that don't. And we need to reach out to those people, because there's a lot of good information on the site that can help them with their journey.
Yeah, no, it's good. Anything else coming down the pipeline that you want to share with us, or?
Not really. Good. Yeah, it's good. We got more content coming out, and we're producing an e-commerce platform for the site where people can read stuff and then go right there and buy it. And we've got a lot of good plans for Slowtwitch. So
exciting stuff. Yeah, good. Thank you for sharing that. And then also just kind of some other news in your world. So what are you racing again soon? What's the training like these days?
Well,
the personal side of things,
Yeah. So I definitely got the dad bod over the last couple of years, which I have started to really focus and work on. And one of the things that happened during COVID was, obviously, there was a very stressful environment for all of us. And I was actually really fortunate enough I got super busy with work during COVID, because a lot of the big ad agencies shut down. And so I actually picked up a lot of new skill sets and work from a photography standpoint. And so for the first time in a long time, I was sitting a ton, like way more than I'd ever like sat in my life. And so I started to develop really tight psoas, and I started to deactivate my glute muscles a lot. And it took me forever to figure out what was going on, because I would sit, I would get up, I would be sore, but I couldn't really figure out what was going on with it. And so, you know, I would start to train, and I would do pretty well, and I would kind of get into like some pretty good shape, and I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then I would like start doing intervals like an idiot, and then I would get injured. And so I actually, you know, one of the reasons why we're here is because I called you and I was like, I need a lever, because one of the things that I want to do is I want to start on a consistent basis, start picking up my mileage. But I'm a little nervous that because every single time I get to like 4 or 5 miles, I feel good. And then if I get really busy at work for like a week or so, and I don't do the PT that I need to do, it flares up again. And so what I'm hoping is that I can keep the mileage going without having all of the impact that I have from, you know, just not training a lot. And so I did a couple of bike races this year. I haven't done any triathlons this year. I was scheduled to do them, but things came up. Last year I did a couple of races. I did some Xteras. I did a gravel triathlon. But 2025, I think I'm going to do a couple of halves. That's the plan. Nice. Yeah. So, and then some bike races. So the gravel races are a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I mean, you got the team now to go do it, put some, you know, fun events together and stuff. I
know. I just got to make sure I don't get my butt kicked.
Yeah. Well, well, we'll have to follow your training a bit. You know, I think after doing what we've been doing over the last 5 years or so, I feel like it just always comes down to just one thing, and that's consistency, you know, and if like you can just stay consistent, just, you know, day after day, week after week, you know, the risk of injury definitely goes down. Time. So, well, cool. Well, we're excited to partner with you even in your little training
Thanks, Brad.
schedule coming up.
Appreciate it, man.
Get you back out on the tri.
Thanks for the unit. You'll see it soon. Yeah. So I've actually got it hooked up to, you know, Wahoo's got their new treadmill coming out. Mm-hmm. And so it's hooked up to that. And so I've got your new brackets that you made for it. And so we'll be going over that and all the things.
That's awesome. Yeah. More to come on that piece for sure. But that's good. It's a good treadmill to be using it with. It's opening up the game.
Yeah, it really is. It's an amazing piece of equipment. Like, I don't think, you know, everyone kind of looks at it, and Wahoo did a really weird job at how they announced it, or at least I thought it was weird at first. And then the more I started to understand why they did the way they did, it actually made a lot of logical sense. But there hasn't been a lot of people that have actually been able to actually try the treadmill itself. And once you're on it and once you use it, you're like, holy crap, like this is insane. Like the amount of technology and how like properly it works for even for $5,000, which is a lot of money, but it's still like such a good value for what it actually is and how the treadmill is built. I mean, I wouldn't classify it a Woodway, but it's pretty dang close to that caliber of quality. And for a third of the price, like I've been on a lot of treadmills. I've been on a lot of commercial grade treadmills, and it's by far the best value for the dollar. So I'm excited to see how the masses think of it when they get to it. So.
Yeah. Do you know of a good website where people could go read an article on it or anything?
Yeah, mine, slowtwitch.com.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Just go in the upper right and search Wahoo Kicker. Right. Yeah,
that's good. No. Awesome. And then I'm going to put you on the spot right as we close here. And I'll give you a few seconds to do it. But what's the podium for Kona going to look like? Who's going to be on it?
Oh, I think Christian will win. I think Gustav will take second, and I think Sam will take third.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Those are my predictions. I think the Norwegian boys are, I think they're built for that course. So now if you would have asked me a month ago, I probably would have said Sam. But did you see his garage burnt?
No, I did not see this.
His garage like completely burnt down. Like
wow.
Completely. And I just don't think that people give that enough credit for how that would disrupt you in your daily life. So yeah.
He had a good showing at the last T100. Well, last weekend. So
yeah, he did. Yeah.
No,
but you know,
a lot of guys are in shape right now. Got a lot.
Yeah, there also wasn't a lot of. I mean, yeah, that series is just odd to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of money.
But that's another conversation.
It is. We may have to have you back.
All right, sounds good.
Well, cool, Eric. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And make sure that if you are a tri-team director or somebody that manages your tri-team, stay tuned into what Slowtwitch has to offer. They got some cool stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
So cool. All right, Eric. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thanks.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about incorporating the lever system into your training, follow us on Instagram @LeverMovement, or even follow me on Strava to learn how I incorporate lever into my training for ultras. Until next time, keep running.